It wasn't the punch that shocked me. It was what my mother said after. I was lying in a hospital bed, ribs cracked, bruises forming like ink under my skin. And when I told her what happened, she didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't cry. She whispered, "Don't ruin your brother's life over this." But the doctor, he didn't stay quiet. He picked up the phone, made one call, and said three words that changed everything. Lila Monroe had never looked forward to family dinners, but tonight felt heavier than most. The Monroe household in Atlanta was a polished facade of Southern charm, a pristine dining room with antique furniture, a chandelier that glimmered like fake sincerity, and a mother who wore judgment like it was designer perfume. At 26, Layla had grown used to the subtle snipes and forced smiles, but tonight would be different. Tonight would break something that could never be put back. She arrived 5 minutes early, dressed in modest jeans and a sweatshirt with a logo of the animal shelter where she worked. She caught a glimpse of herself in the hallway, mirror-tired eyes, hair in a bun, no makeup. The kind of woman her family pretended not to notice. Her brother Ethan, on the other hand, was already seated, scrolling through his phone with a smug grin. He was the golden boy, an investment banker with a Rolex, charm to spare, and a talent for saying cruel things in polite tones. Their mother, Margaret Monroe, hovered near the dining table, placing the last of the silverware with robotic precision. She barely looked at Layla. "Nice of you to make it," Ethan said without looking up. "Still playing with puppies for a living?" Layla forced a tight smile. "Still selling wise for a living." Ethan chuckled like he was the clever one. "You know, you could actually make something of yourself if you left that pathetic job. Maybe try acting like an adult for once." Layla's jaw tightened. She'd swallowed these comments for years, but something in her snapped this time. Not. "All of us need to step on people to feel successful, Ethan. At least I don't lie to myself about who I am." That did it. Ethan looked up, eyes cold. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Even Margaret paused, her hands frozen around the linen napkin. But Ethan stood slowly, deliberately walked over, and without a word, punched Layla. Hard in the ribs, the air rushed out of her lungs as pain exploded in her side. She stumbled back, knocking into a chair before collapsing to the floor, gasping. Her face flushed with shock and humiliation. She stared up at her mother, expecting anything, but Margaret didn't move. "Get up," she said curtly, like Layla had dropped something, not been assaulted. Layla clutched her side, her breathing shallow. He hit me." Margaret's eyes narrowed, not in concern, but in warning. "Don't exaggerate. You provoked him." Layla blinked, stunned. "You saw he punched me, and I said stop. Do not ruin his future over a moment of anger." Margaret said coldly, "He has a career. You have dogs." Ethan returned to his seat, unbothered, already sipping his wine. Layla lay there, pain clouding her mind, her ribs throbbing with every breath. But worse than the physical pain was the betrayal, deep and raw. Her mother had chosen silence. Her brother had chosen violence. And for the first time in her life, Layla knew the truth. She wasn't part of this family. She was tolerated at best, discarded at worst. Something inside her hardened as she stood, wincing. No one helped her. No apology was offered. The dinner resumed as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed. As she walked out the door, holding back tears, one thought repeated in her mind like a heartbeat: they'll regret this. And for the first time in years, Layla wasn't afraid. She was done playing the quiet one. The emergency room was dimly lit and eerily quiet for a Friday night. Layla sat hunched over in a stiff plastic chair, her arm wrapped protectively around her bruised torso. Every breath was a reminder of Ethan's fist. Every moment of silence echoed with the sound of her mother's cold indifference. A nurse eventually. called her name, and Layla was led through sterile white halls into an exam room. The pain was sharp but dulling under adrenaline, like her body had gone half numb to shield her from everything else. The doctor, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Patel, examined her carefully. She winced with every touch, but didn't cry. She refused. Two fractured ribs on your left side, Dr. Patel said softly. You're lucky there's no damage to your lung. You've also got a significant amount of bruising, some fresh, some older. Has something like this happened before? Layla hesitated. The temptation to downplay it was strong muscle memory. But for the first time, she said the truth out loud. My brother hit me. And no, not like this. But the words, the put-downs? Yeah, since I was a kid. Dr. Patel gave a long pause. You should consider filing a police report. This isn't just a family dispute, Layla. This is domestic violence. Layla looked away, tears stinging her eyes. Domestic violence. The words tasted like shame, but also relief. Someone said it. Someone named it Dot. Dr. Patel gently placed a pamphlet on the bedside table resources. Numbers, a quiet lifeline, and stepped out, giving her space. Dot alone in that room. Layla sat with the truth like it was an old friend who'd finally told her what she needed to hear. Dot, her phone buzzed. A call from Mom. She let it ring 3 times before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. Hello? Margaret's voice was sharp, irritated. I just heard you went to the hospital. Are you trying to make this public? Layla swallowed. Hard. I have 2 broken ribs. And accidents happen. You will not press charges, Layla. Do you understand me? Ethan has a reputation. You'll destroy everything we've built. There it was again, the family name. Not her pain. Not her broken body. Layla said nothing. Her mother continued, voice icy. You know how this family works. We don't air our problems. If you say anything, I promise you, we'll deny it. We will make sure you look like the unstable one. Click. Layla hung up. She stared at her reflection in the dark screen of her phone. She barely recognized the woman looking back, swollen face, eyes rimmed red, mouth trembling but jaw tight, and just like that, the weight lifted, not the pain, but the silence. She had carried for years. That was the moment something shifted. She was done being the family's punching bag. Done being told her voice didn't matter. She picked up the pamphlet Dr. Patel had left and tucked it into her purse. Then she asked the nurse for copies of her medical records. When the nurse asked why, Layla simply said, documentation, because... Now she was thinking clearly, every insult, every bruise, every lie. She remembered family dinners where Ethan joked about locking her out as a child. Her mother blaming her when things went wrong. This time would be different. Layla walked out of that hospital not just with broken ribs, but with something new. Resolved. And in the back of her mind, a plan was already forming. Not just for justice, but for exposure. 2 days after the hospital visit, Layla returned to the clinic to officially request her medical records. She sat across from a nurse named Darlene, who was kind but curious, flipping through a thin manila file with furrowed brows. Been here more than I thought, Darlene said softly, her voice laced with concern. Layla leaned in, her ribs still aching but her focus razor sharp. What do you mean? Darlene adjusted her glasses and turned the file toward Layla. Over the past 7 years, you've had 4 documented eye visits. A fractured wrist at 19, a sprained ankle at 22, a concussion at 23, all listed as accidents. You never reported anyone else involved, but she hesitated. But what? Layla asked, a knot forming in her stomach. Darlene closed the folder gently. They all follow a pattern. You came in alone each time, usually late at night. And each time, when we asked if you felt safe at home, you said yes, but your body said something else. The memories came flooding back. The wrist Ethan twisted. during an argument when she refused to lend him money, the fall down the stairs that was really him shoving her after she made a sarcastic remark, the concussion from when he slammed a car door too hard while she was getting out. Layla swallowed, hard ashamed she'd ever defended him. Ashamed she let herself believe it was normal. Just sibling stuff. Then Darlene said something that made her blood run cold. Last year, a girl came in with a broken arm. She had your last name, Samantha Monroe. Same address listed as yours. From a few years ago. Said she was your cousin. Layla's brows furrowed. I don't have a cousin named Samantha. Darlene tilted her head. Then I don't know who she was. But she looked scared. Young, maybe 17. Refused to say what happened. She never came back after that. The name stuck in Layla's mind like a hook. Samantha Monroe. Someone else had been hurt. Possibly by Ethan, possibly silenced out later that night. She sat at her kitchen table with a cup of untouched tea and the city's yellow legal aid pamphlet beside her. She dialed the number on the page, her fingers shaking. Only slightly. Georgia Legal Support Center. How can I help you? The voice was calm, confident, exactly what she needed. I need help, Layla said. I was assaulted by my brother. And I think it's been happening for a long time, more than just to me. Within a week, she was connected with a caseworker named Marcy, a tenacious woman with a voice like steel and a heart that didn't flinch. Start gathering everything, Marcy advised. Medical records, old texts, voicemails. If he's ever been violent, over the phone, record it. If your mother tries to threaten or silence you again, record that too. The more truth we have, the stronger your case. Layla nodded. For the first time, she felt like she had a direction. She pulled out an old phone and scrolled through years of texts from Ethan. Some were full of fake affection. Others were pure venom, greater than, "You're pathetic, Layla. Don't make me come over there and make you shut up. If you tell Mom, I swear you'll regret it." She saved them all. Then she downloaded a call recorder app and waited. It didn't take long. Margaret called within 2 days, ranting about keeping appearances and not embarrassing the family. Every word went straight into Layla's growing evidence folder, and at the bottom of that folder, she added a sticky note, "Find Samantha Monroe," because Layla wasn't just building a case anymore. She was building a movement, starting with the truth, piece by piece, and this time, they would be the ones who had to stay silent. The morning Layla filed the police report, the sky over Atlanta was gray and heavy-fitting, like the air knew this day would crack something open. She sat across from a soft-spoken detective at the precinct, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her voice only trembled once, and even then, only when she had to say the words, "My brother hit me." She handed over the folder she'd been building. For weeks, hospital records, threatening texts, recorded conversations with her mother, and a printed statement. The detective flipped through the contents slowly, nodding in grim recognition. This wasn't a story they hadn't heard. But Layla, she wasn't a name on paper. She was breathing, bruised, and burning with purpose. That same afternoon, the case was handed over to the district attorney's office. A junior prosecutor reached out to her the next morning, her tone cautious but serious. "We're going to do this quietly at first," she explained. "We'll start with a formal notification of protective Are you sure you're remembering it right? But it was Ethan's reach that struck the hardest. He didn't message her directly, but he didn't need to. One by one, her old friends began dropping hints. Ethan saying you're unstable, one messaged. He's telling people you made the whole thing up for attention. Another wrote, he says you used to get into fights all the time as a teen. That you threw yourself down the stairs. Once to get him in trouble, Layla's stomach turned. The isolation wasn't a wave. It was a slow, squeezing pressure from all sides. Her social media turned quiet. The silence was louder than hate, but she didn't break. Not this time, instead. She poured everything into the case. She filed for a protective order. She met with Marcy, her legal aid advisor, every week. She joined local women's groups' quiet meetings in church basements, Zoom calls with survivors, email threads filled with names, and whispered solidarity dotted. Was there that she heard from another woman anonymous at first who said, Ethan Still, she was alone most nights. Her apartment felt like a waiting room between war zones. The bruises had faded, but the memory hadn't. Neither had the fear. She triple-locked her door. She kept her phone charged at all times. Once, she found a dead squirrel stuffed in her mailbox. No signature. Just a message. She didn't flinch. Instead, she posted a message in her women's support group, greater than he's scared. That's why he's lashing out, but I'm not going to stop. He hurt me for years. Now I'm going to speak for every woman he thought would stay silent. And just like that, messages began flooding in encouragement, support, and new stories. Ethan wasn't just her story. He was a pattern, and Layla was becoming the woman who would end it. The courtroom was colder than Layla expected. Not just in temperature, but in energy, sterile, emotionless, like grief and justice were meant to be processed clinically. She sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands folded tightly in her lap, the polished wood beneath her fingertips grounding her in the moment. Across the room, the heavy doors creaked open. Ethan strode in, tailored suit, slicked hair, that signature smirk plastered across his face. His confidence was a mask she recognized all too well. A decade of cruelty hidden behind the charm of a golden boy. He winked at her as he passed casual, dismissive as if none of this could touch him. Layla didn't flinch. The judge entered and proceedings began. Ethan's lawyer wasted no time painting Layla as emotional, confused, even vengeful. She was portrayed as a scorned sister, with a habit of twisting facts. They emphasized the years she stayed silent, subtly implying that silence equaled consent, but Layla had come prepared not just with documents and recordings, but with truth sharpened like a blade. Her lawyer brought up the medical records first, walking the court through each injury, the sprained wrist, the concussion, the bruises. And then they called Dr. Patel to the stand. The courtroom shifted as the ER doctor entered. Calm, composed, and undeniably credible, she carried the authority of someone who sees pain every day and doesn't look away from it. Please state your findings from the night of the incident. Layla's attorney asked. Dr. Patel opened the folder. Ms. Monroe had 2 fractured ribs and extensive bruising along her left side. The injuries were consistent with blunt force trauma, specifically a punch from a closed fist. She looked directly at the jury, and not for the first time. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. And why? The lawyer asked. Did you make a report to the authorities that night? Dr. Patel paused. Then she said the words that would echo through Layla's soul for years, because she mattered. The courtroom was silent. Even the air seemed to pause. I've seen too many women walk out of hospitals thinking no one will believe them. The doctor continued. Layla didn't ask for help, but her body told the truth, and I wanted her to know someone saw her. Ethan's smug expression faltered for the first time. His eyes darted toward the jury, then back to Layla. His narrative was slipping. One by one, the pieces fell into place. Texts from Ethan threatening her. Voice recordings of Margaret, pressuring Layla to protect the family. Screenshots of an anonymous girl, Samantha Monroe, who never appeared in person, but whose story matched Layla's to the bone. When it was Layla's turn to speak, she stood steady. Her voice didn't crack. It cut. I was told to stay quiet, told that speaking out would destroy my brother's life. But no one ever asked what it did to mine. For years, I believed their silence was normal, that I was the problem, but I'm done believing that. She turned toward Ethan. You hit me because you thought no one would stop you. You were almost right. By the end of the day, the courtroom looked different. The confidence was gone from Ethan's face. His lawyer avoided eye contact. Even Margaret, sitting silently in the back row, stared at the floor like a stranger. The judge announced that the case would proceed to trial, and a protective order was granted immediately. Outside, the cameras waited. A story had made the news, and while Ethan had always been the pride of the Monroe family, now Layla was the name people were whispering, not as a victim, but as the woman who wouldn't stay quiet. The courtroom was quieter during sentencing. No cameras, no public gallery. Just Layla, her attorney, a few courtroom staff, and the man who had once made her feel invisible. Ethan Monroe stood beside his lawyer, a shadow of the man who had walked in weeks ago, smirking like the world belonged to him. His suit was still crisp, but his posture had shifted, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched, eyes no longer meeting Layla's. The judge's tone was firm but measured. Mr. Monroe, the evidence presented speaks clearly. While you are a first-time offender, the court recognizes the long-term emotional and physical damage inflicted on your sister. Your actions have consequences. Then came the sentence. 1 year of supervised probation, 300 hours of community service, and mandatory enrollment in an anger management program. No jail time, but this wasn't a win for Ethan. This was exposure, and the world was watching more. Importantly, the judge granted Layla a permanent restraining order. Ethan was legally barred from contacting her in any form, directly or indirectly. Layla didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She simply exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. Outside the courthouse, she walked past reporters without a word. Not because she was afraid, but because her story no longer needed to be shouted. It had been heard. A month later, Layla moved into a small, sunlit apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just a second-floor walk-up with potted plants on the windowsill and hardwood floors that creaked under her bare feet. For the first time in her adult life, every corner of her home felt safe. She painted the walls pale blue, adopted a senior dog named Benny from the shelter, and slowly, without even realizing it, she began to reclaim her voice in new ways. One afternoon, Marcy, her legal advocate and now a close friend, invited her to speak at a closed women's group. I know you're not a public speaker, Marcy said gently, but I think they need to hear you. You don't have to tell everything, just what helped you survive. Layla hesitated, then nodded. Okay. That night, she sat in a folding chair in a circle of 10 women. Some had bruises. Some had fresh wounds no one could see. All had stories. She didn't bring notes. She didn't plan a speech. I used. To think being quiet kept me safe, she began. I thought if I stayed small, if I didn't fight back, it would stop. But silence wasn't safety, it was permission. And the moment I stopped giving that permission, things started to change. Heads nodded slowly, a few tears. One woman whispered, "Thank you." That whisper did something to Layla like rain hitting dry earth. She kept going. Week after week, sharing her story, then listening to theirs. She wasn't just healing anymore. She was helping others find the strength to begin. Months passed. Ethan disappeared from the public eye. His company distanced itself. His name no longer opened doors, it raised eyebrows. And Margaret, she never reached out again. Layla grieved the loss of her mother, but not the woman herself, just the mother she'd hoped existed. Because what Layla found instead was far more powerful. Herself, not the quiet girl from family dinners, not the dismissed sister or broken. Survivor. She was Lila Monroe, resilient, brave, unbreakable. And now, when she spoke, people listened because her voice, once buried under bruises and shame, had become something undeniable. A force, a light, a beginning. If you've ever been told to stay silent when someone hurt you, know this, your voice matters. Just like Layla, you have the right to speak up, to be heard, and to fight back. If this story moved you, share it. Because somewhere, someone else is being told to stay quiet, and your share might be the reason they don't. Subscribe for more. True stories that uncover the truth no one else will say out loud.